A young woman, with a delicate brush, dips it into a glowing paint, her tongue moistening the bristles as she prepares to craft the intricate faces of luminescent watches, a skill that would soon become a curse. What could be the cost of painting timepieces that shine like tiny stars in the dark? A novelty that was all the rage in 1917? In Orange, New Jersey, the United States Radium Corporation has just begun its operations, hiring hundreds of women like her to join its workforce, all unaware of the toxic secrets hidden in the radiant paint they handle every day. As these women carefully paint the watch faces, their fingers move with precision, their eyes fixed on the delicate work, oblivious to the danger that lurks in every stroke of their brushes. The factory hums with activity. Rows of women bent over their workstations as the glow of radium paint illuminates their faces, a glow that would soon turn deadly. As they work, the women are instructed to moisten the fine bristles of their brushes with their tongues, a technique meant to create a finer point, but one that unleashes a deadly poison into their bodies. With each lick, radium-laced paint is transferred from brush to tongue and then swallowed, spreading its toxic influence through their systems. The women's fingers move deftly, dipping and painting, as they unintentionally ingest the radioactive substance, their bodies beginning to absorb its devastating effects. Unaware of the horror they are unleashing within themselves, they continue to work, the radium paint glowing brightly on their brushes, a false promise of harmless beauty, as their health begins to silently unravel thread by thread. And with each passing day, the poison takes hold, waiting to strike, its effects simmering just beneath the surface, ready to erupt into a nightmare of suffering. As the years unfold, the radium dial painting industry expands, its reach stretching across the American landscape, with factories in Ottawa, Illinois, and Waterbury, Connecticut, joining Orange, New Jersey, in employing hundreds of young women to carefully craft the glowing faces of watches and clocks. In these factories, women with steady hands and bright eyes dip their brushes into the radium-laced paint, just as their counterparts in New Jersey had done, unaware of the dangers that lurk in the soft glow of their work. The geometric patterns of the dials seem to dance in the light, as the women's tongues moisten the brushes, releasing tiny amounts of radium into their systems, gradually poisoning their bodies, setting the stage for a tragic convergence of suffering and despair that will soon spread far beyond the factory walls. As the months pass, the women's smiles, once bright and carefree, begin to falter, their teeth aching with a piercing pain that refuses to subside. Bone fractures become commonplace, with some women's jaws and teeth disintegrating, leaving gaping holes in their faces. Disfigurement sets in as necrosis of the jaw takes hold, eating away at their very bone structure. The women's complaints, however, fall on deaf ears as factory managers dismiss their symptoms as mere hysteria or the result of poor hygiene. But the truth is far more sinister as the radium continues to accumulate in their bodies, slowly destroying them from the inside out. And still, the women are forced to return to their workstations, their brushes dipping into the toxic paint as their bodies cry out in agony, their voices muffled by the din of the factory and the indifference of those in charge. As the months drag on, the Radium Girls' condition worsens, their bodies ravaged by the relentless onslaught of radiation. Anemia sets in, leaving them weak and frail, their skin pale and drawn. Bone cancer begins to manifest, eating away at their joints and limbs, leaving them crippled and debilitated. The necrosis of the jaw, a gruesome affliction known as radium jaw, starts to appear, causing their jaw bones to disintegrate, leaving gaping holes in their faces. The women's mouths are filled with ulcers, their teeth loose and falling out as they struggle to eat and speak. And yet, despite their horrific suffering, the factories continue to operate, churning out glowing watches and instruments as the Radium Girls' lives slowly slip away, their voices growing weaker, their pleas for help falling on deaf ears as the deadly poison continues to course through their veins. But in 1926, the United States Radium Corporation finally ceases its operations. The once thriving factories now standing as empty testaments to the devastating consequences of corporate neglect. The surviving Radium Girls, their bodies ravaged by radiation, their faces disfigured by necrosis, are left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. They begin to organize, to fight for justice and compensation, their voices, though weakened, still echoing with a determination to hold their former employers accountable. As they band together, a sense of solidarity forms, and with it, a glimmer of hope that they may yet find some measure of redemption. But the question remains, will it be enough? And will it come too late, as the shadows of death and disability continue to loom over them? As the Radium Girls' plight gains attention, their stories of suffering and resilience spread like wildfire, captivating the nation's conscience, and a groundswell of outrage erupts, with protesters gathering outside the factories, holding signs that read, "Justice for the Radium Girls" and "Protect workers' rights." The media scrutinizes the corporations, and lawmakers begin to take notice, drafting new legislation to safeguard workers from industrial hazards. But for many of the Radium Girls, the help comes too slowly, their bodies continuing to deteriorate, their jaws disintegrating, their bones brittle and breaking, and still they persevere, their determination fueled by the hope that their struggle will not be in vain, and that their voices will be heard. But just as it seems that justice may finally be within reach, a devastating setback threatens to derail their efforts, leaving their future uncertain. As the Radium Girls' fight for justice hangs in the balance, a young writer named Kate Moore stumbles upon their story. Inspired by Melanie Marnich's powerful play, These Shining Lives. Moore becomes obsessed with uncovering the truth, poring over dusty archives, and conducting interviews with surviving family members. She uncovers a dark history of corporate greed and neglect, with the United States Radium Corporation prioritizing profits over the lives of its employees. The more Moore learns, the more she realizes the extent of the tragedy, and the deeper she digs, the more she exposes a web of deceit and cover-ups that threaten to consume her. With each new revelation, Moore's determination grows, but so does the sense of unease as she begins to grasp the magnitude of the injustice that has been perpetrated and the consequences that still linger to this day. As Kate Moore's book, The Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women, hits the shelves in 2016, the truth about the Radium Girls' tragic fate begins to spread like a beacon of awareness, illuminating the dark corners of history. The faces of the victims, once forgotten, now stare out from the pages of her book, their stories of suffering and resilience etched in the minds of readers nationwide. But just as the light of justice seems to be shining brighter, a haunting question lingers. How many more secrets remain hidden, waiting to be unearthed? And what will it take to bring closure to the families of the Radium Girls, who still bear the scars of a tragedy that refuses to fade? As the years went by, the legacy of the Radium Girls continued to inspire change, their story echoing through the halls of justice and beyond. In the 1940s, their plight was still being felt, a reminder of the devastating cost of unchecked industrial progress. It wouldn't be until decades later, in 2016, that their story would be revived in a powerful book, The Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women, written by Kate Moore, who was inspired by a play, These Shining Lives, authored by Melanie Marnich. The book would shine a light on the dark corners of America's industrial past, ensuring that the Radium Girls' sacrifices would not be forgotten. And so, their memory lives on, a haunting reminder etched in the annals of history, a faint glow that refuses to fade. As the light of justice continues to shine, the Radium Girls' legacy extends far beyond their own tragic fate, a cautionary tale of the human cost of industrial progress. Their suffering has led to significant changes in labor laws and workers' rights, a testament to the power of their story. In the silence that follows, we remember the faces of the women who suffered, their names etched in history, their memories honored. The old factories stand as empty reminders, a glimpse into a darker past, while the present moves forward slowly with a newfound sense of responsibility. And as we look back, we'd see the Radium Girls, their shining lives